Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we are reading today Srimad-Bhagavad-Gita as it is, from the introduction, beginning on page 18, towards the lower half of the page. We'll read the paragraph that was read at the end of yesterday's one as well, just to set the scene. So we read from just above halfway down. Factually, we are related to the Supreme Lord in service. The Supreme Lord is the Supreme Enjoyer, and we living entities are His servitors. We are created for His enjoyment, and if we participate in that eternal enjoyment with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we become happy. We cannot become happy otherwise. It is not possible to be happy independently, just as no one part of the body can be happy without cooperating with the stomach. It is not possible for the living entity to be happy without rendering transcendental loving service unto the Supreme Lord. So today we're contrasting with those who want material enjoyment and actually don't become happy, and what the real happiness is like. In the Bhagavad-Gita, worship of different demigods or rendering service to them is not approved. It is stated in the 7th chapter, 20th verse, Kamais tester rita jnana prapadyante nyadevata tam tam iniyaman asthaya prakritya niyatasvaya. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. Here it is plainly said that those who are directed by lust worship the demigods and not the Supreme Lord Krishna. When we mention the name Krishna, we do not refer to any sectarian name. Krishna means the highest pleasure, and it is confirmed that the Supreme Lord is the reservoir or storehouse of all pleasure. We are hankering after pleasure. Ananda Maya Vyasat, Vedanta Sutra 1112. The living entities, like the Lord, are full of consciousness, and they are after happiness. The Lord is perpetually happy, and if the living entities associate with the Lord, cooperate with Him, and take part in His association, then they also become happy. The Lord descends to this material world to show His pastimes in Vrindavan, which are full of happiness. When Lord Sri Krishna was in Vrindavan, his activities with his cowherd boyfriends, with his damsel friends, and with the other inhabitants of Vrindavan, and with the cows, were all full of happiness. The total population of Vrindavan knew nothing but Krishna. But Lord Krishna even discouraged his father Nanda Maharaj from worshipping the demigod Indra, because he wanted to establish the fact that people need not worship any demigod. They need only worship the Supreme Lord, because their ultimate goal is to return to His abode. The abode of Lord Sri Krishna is described in the Bhagavad-Gita, 15th chapter, 6th verse. Na tad bhasayatse suryo, na shashanko na pavakatha, na yadgatva na divartante, tad dhamma paramam mana. That supreme abode of mine is not illuminated by the sun or a moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmaditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandayaham Sri Guruho Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Guruna Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrijatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanasitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Site Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay. Okay, so here Srila Prabhupada is contrasting between those demigod worshippers, who he says are directed by lust, and those who are worshipping the Supreme Lord, where happiness comes in, and not lust. So in the Krishna book, in the beginning, when Krishna is, Lord Balaram, first Lord Balaram enters the womb of Devaki, and then he prepares the womb for Lord Krishna, and he is transformed to the womb of Rohini. And then Lord Krishna calls upon Yogamaya to also come into the Leela. So in this part of the Krishna book, Srila Prabhupada is also talking about the different types of worshippers. He talks about how Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram are the powerful, and how Yogamaya is the power. In other places we talk about the energetic and the energy. So he says, in that place, Srila Prabhupada explains, actually I think it's Krishna speaking to Yogamaya, is explaining that those who are interested in the material world and material sense gratification always worship the power, whereas those who are interested in the spiritual world will worship the powerful. So in that part is mentioned, of course, the other names of Maya, Durga, Kali, Bhadrakali, Vaishnavi, so many names are there. But the same is true also of the demigods. They are also the energies of the Lord. They are not the Supreme Lord themselves. So if one is worshipping the energy, it is because he wants that energy. So that is why this Srila Prabhupada is saying here, those who are directed by lust. So directed by lust, they're not actually forming a relationship with those demigods they're worshipping. They're directed by lust. They're after the energy itself. So one example is, of course, Lakshmi Puja. When people worship Lakshmi, they won't worship Narayana alongside of Lakshmi. They only worship Lakshmi. And what is it? They don't have a special relationship with her. They simply want the money, which is also Lakshmi. So the same with all the demigods. They approach the demigods not because they want a relationship with the demigods, but simply they want something in return. So they think they're going to make a great deal. Do a little puja and give a few rupees to the demigods. In return, they'll get a lakh of rupees in their business. They get a successful business. Their daughter or son will get a successful marriage just for a few rupees or a little time involved. So there's a nice story in relation to this in Chaitanya Charitamrita. There was one person who was really in need of something. So he'd heard that Sanatana Goswami had this touchstone that would turn any metal into gold. So he thought, I must go and see if I can get this touchstone off Sanatana Goswami. So he went to Sanatana Goswami and he asked if he could have the touchstone. He wasn't sure that he was going to get it because something valuable like that. And Sanatana Goswami says, okay, you can look over there, it's sitting over there in the rubbish. So he looked over there and he took this touchstone and he walked away with it. But then he started wondering, if this touchstone is so valuable, why was it sitting in the rubbish? Why was it that Sanatana Goswami didn't care if he took it away? Is it really not that valuable? So he thought he would go back and ask. So he came back to Sanatana Goswami and said, but do you have something more valuable than this touchstone? And Sanatana Goswami told him, okay, you throw that in the Yamuna and then you come, I will give you something more valuable. So he came back and Sanatana Goswami taught him about devotional service. Because these people who think they're going to gain from worshipping the demigods, they think they're going to gain a few rupees and they'll get a lakh of rupees back. But what they don't realize is how this lakh of rupees is going to bind them in this material world. And actually they think they're winning, but actually they're just becoming more and more bound. So they're not winning anything at all. So Prahlad Maharaj in one of the Puranas, Dhruva Maharaj, was describing how when he got the darshan of the Supreme Lord, I think Dhruva Maharaj, he decided, what I was after is like a few pieces of broken glass, and what I found is the diamond. Because he wanted this great empire, greater than his great-grandfather's. But then when he saw the Supreme Lord, he realized that actually material opulence is nothing. So we want to come to that point. Now there's some nice verses. So Srila Prabhupada's quoting from the 7th chapter about demigod worship. And there's also a section in the 9th chapter. 7th. And in both places, Krishna is contrasting the worship of the demigods with the worship of him. So in the 7th chapter, this verse that Prabhupada quotes is just after one describing the worship of himself. So 7:19, Bahunam janmanante ante jnanavanma prapajate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. And then Krishna contrasts it by this other verse, Karmais taste hrita jnana prapadyante nyadevata tam tam niyamam astaya prakritya niyatasvaya. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own nature. I am in everyone's heart as supersoul, and as soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. Endowed with such faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. So this is very significant. When one follows the rules and regulations of the Vedas in order to worship the demigods, such worship is actually worshipping the Supreme Lord, because he is present in the yajna. He is present as yajna. So if you follow the correct prescribed path for worshipping the demigods, you're actually acknowledging them as agents of the Supreme Lord, who comes in the form of yajna. But many of those people who worship demigods now, they don't follow what's given in the Vedas. They invent their own processes. One of the outstanding cases of somebody who invented his own worship was this demon who decided that he'd worship Lord Shiva by cutting off his own flesh and offering it into the fire. So Lord Shiva wasn't at all impressed. He didn't even come. This person he thought he was a devotee of Lord Shiva, and he thought he was going to worship him. So let me invent my own way to worship him. Let me give this is the most valuable thing I've got is my body, let me put it into the fire. So he was cutting off his flesh and throwing it into the fire. And Lord Shiva didn't come, because that's not what he's interested in. And then this guy thought, well, okay, let me offer my head into the fire, and then he must be pleased. And Lord Shiva, just to stop the stupidity, he came and said, what is it you're after? Actually, I would have been pleased if you just offered me a little bit of water. And what are you doing? And then he asked for this boon. But so he's inventing his own process for worshipping the demigods. But that's not the process that's given in the Vedas. So actually, all the Vedas are meant for approaching Krishna. Earlier in the Bhagavad-Gita, in the 2nd chapter, it says, all the purposes of a small well, all the purpose of a small well are fulfilled if you know the purpose behind it. So all the purposes of the Vedas are fulfilled if you know the purpose behind it. So there, Krishna is actually explaining to us that the purpose of the Vedas is to know him. It's also in the 15th chapter, Vedas aham eva vejo. I am the purpose of the Vedas, and I am to be known by the Vedas. So the Vedas are there to bring us to Krishna. So the prescribed worship in the Vedas, even the worship of demigods, is meant to bring us to Krishna. So it gives those who are not able to worship Krishna directly, it gives them some way of recognizing first a higher power. And then if they follow these prescribed regulations, as I said before, Yajna, Krishna, is actually involved in this worship. So they will make gradual advancement. But then people think they will take a shortcut and do something else. So in the 9th chapter, Krishna also talks about demigod worshippers. 9th. Around about verse 22. Oh, he starts before that. So in verse 20, he says, those who study the Vedas and drink the soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets, worship me indirectly. Purified of sinful reactions, they take birth on pious heavenly planet of Indra, where they enjoy godly delights. So this is the worship of demigods, and specifically drinking the soma juice takes them to Indra's planet. When they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure, and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, those who seek enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the 3 Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. So this is reinforcing the point that they think they are getting a great gain. They think they're going to the heavenly planets, but they forget that they have to come down again and repeat the cycle. And again, Krishna in this section is contrasting with his own worship. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana parupasate tesham nicha biyukthanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. And this verse is very significant about worship of the demigods. Ye pyananya devata bhakta yajante shradayanvitaha tepi mameva kontaya yajant yavidi purvakam. Those who are the devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way. So this is again confirming what I was saying, how if you followed the correct process for worshipping the demigods, actually you're worshipping Krishna. And the demigods are agents of Krishna, so you're worshipping him in that way. But he says, avidi purvakam. It's actually not the correct way to approach him. It's a less direct way. Aham hi sarva yagyanam bhakta cha prabhur evacha natu mam abhijananti tatvena tas javantite. I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Therefore those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. Yanti deva vrata devan pritrinanta pritrivrataha bhutam yanti bhutejya bhutani yanti bhutejya yanti mam yajinopimam. Those who worship the demigods will take birth amongst the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship the ghosts and spirit will take birth amongst such beings, and those who worship me will live with me. So Krishna is explaining the difference. One worships the demigods will go to the demigods, one worships him will come to him. But there's a very big difference in the result. So in the previous verse he says he's the only master of and enjoyer of this sacrifices. He also said that at the end of the 5th chapter. Bhaktaram yagyatapasan sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutamam yatva mam shantim richati. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. So this appreciation of Lord Krishna as the enjoyer and master of sacrifices, as the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, makes Lord Srila Prabhupada is trying to explain the difference. It's not just a one step up, he's just a better demigod or he's a better person. It's completely the opposite. Those who are interested in material sense enjoyment, they get only repeated birth and death. They get only repeated misery because they're after their own pleasure. They're seeking to enjoy the energy of the Lord. And the actual purpose of the living entity is to serve the Supreme Whole. Prabhupada has just said in the previous version, we've just covered how the parts of the body serve the body. Actually, the parts of our body don't know anything different than to serve us. Our hand doesn't have a separate consciousness because it's not separated. It's actually a connected part of us. Sureshwar gave a very graphic thing in his class last week where he showed a cut-off finger. I thought it was a bit gross. But he made the point that our bodily parts are not separated from us. They're not even a little bit separated. And if they are separated from us, they're no longer useful at all. But we are meant to remain connected to Krishna. Our separation from Krishna is illusory. We imagine we're separated from him because we have this minute independence. So we try to enjoy separately from him because we also have a minute bit of consciousness ourselves. We are separately conscious and we think we can enjoy separate from Krishna. So therefore we try to. But actually we can only be happy when we serve Krishna, when we work in line with his plans. So to try and understand this difference is very difficult when we don't actually have the view of the spiritual world. But Srila Prabhupada is contrasting by how when the Lord comes, he comes and performs pastimes that are full of happiness. That is whole, Krishna means the highest pleasure. So happiness is just a part of associating with him, the highest happiness, not just some material happiness. In the class that Mahatma gave last week, he was explaining nicely how that for a little bit of material happiness, we have to put in so much austerity, and then we got so much of reactions afterwards. For instance, we work for 5 or 6 days to get 1 day off, or 2 days off. We work for like 11.5 months to get a couple of weeks off. And so we're putting in a lot of austerity to get a small amount of happiness that's temporary, and it's going to finish. And the result is we have to go back to work again, because otherwise we have no money. We can't enjoy again until we go back to work again. So this material happiness is so temporary and so fleeting, and yet we place all our hopes in it. And we don't realize that Krishna is actually there just to enjoy. The Lord descends to this mortal world to show his pastimes in Vrindavan, which are full of happiness. When Lord Sri Krishna was in Vrindavan, his activities with his cowherd boyfriends, with his damsel friends, and with the other inhabitants of Vrindavan, and with the cows, were full of happiness. So just for a break of me talking, name some of your favorite pastimes that are full of happiness of Lord Krishna. Anyone's got some favorite pastimes they want to name? Meditate on happiness.
Happiness.
Yeah.
Not really about happiness, but I like the one with Sandipani when they go to the forest, they get lost, and they come back, and then
Yeah.
the heart is renewed. It's not really happiness, but I like that pastime.
Yeah.
Happiness is a little different.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, Krishna is enjoying all of these pastimes. He's even enjoying this being chastised by Mother Yashoda. This also brings him happiness. It's explained that he likes that even more than all the prayers of the Vedas. Any other pastimes of Lord Krishna that you like to meditate on? Favorite pastime?
One thing which is very impressive, when the people were so afraid and for one demon or something, and they were running and they were full of fear.
So I think we should use the microphone, because otherwise everyone can't hear.
So impressive, but
No, I know, but there's people on the radio and everyone else wants to hear. You just bring it over and it will work. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
One of the things, because I didn't think about it, you've asked it, so one immediately very fast thing. One of the memories is reading the Krishna book, when there were all the girls and women and even women pregnant, they got miscarriage or something.
Yes.
Because of fear, there was
Yes.
some demon, and they were, oh my God, I cannot imagine how fearful people can be. And there was Krishna, and he made the end because he killed the demon.
Yeah, that was Aristasura. I wasn't sure, Casey or Aristasura, they both created fear. Yeah, Aristasura, the big bull demon.
But I think fear is something something unbearable, undescribable. I think people can get a heart attack, shock, or even drop dead. And can you imagine that you are overwhelmed by, attacked by so much fear and you don't know, desperate. And there comes Krishna and suddenly all your fear and the whole problem is solved.
Yeah, the whole problem is. And then, of course, the Leela goes on after that, because after killing the bull demon, then the gopis don't remain fearful, and nor do they remain thankful of Krishna. They start to argue with him. Now you've killed a bull. You're in trouble.
Yes, but the bull was actually a demon or something.
Yeah, but it looked like a bull. So the gopis are arguing with him.
Fear must be very
Yeah, yeah. Okay, another favorite pastime. Come on, some favorite pastime. Come on, pick up the microphone so everyone can hear. No, because they're listening on the radio, they want to hear this pastime as well.
So much of the pastime is just that mood of when he was bringing in the cows, he was cow herding the dust off the hooves, and his cow herd friends with him and the gopis are nearby, and just that mood, and that emanates for me just something really quite happy.
Yeah, some of the writers are so poetic when they describe. I was reading one, I think in Govinda Lilamrita. It describes the cows coming in as like a river, and on the a white island or something, and the dust coming up as something else. Some very poetic descriptions, and how everyone's rushing to see him and being happy. Some favorite pastime?
I didn't read it, but I heard it when Radharani was born. She had her eyes always closed, and I didn't know in the short case because my English is very bad. But when Krishna looked the first time at her, she opens up her eyes.
Yeah.
It's very touching.
It's a very sweet story. Prabhu, yours?
Lord Indra wanted to test Krishna's about this, continuously giving thunderstorms. Krishna was holding the Govardhan for continuously for 7 days.
Yeah.
And that was great blessing actually.
Yeah.
Without even expressing his anger or something, he was constantly smiling and holding the Govardhan for continuously for 7 days.
Yeah, and he was happy because that was his chance to enjoy unbroken exchanges with all his friends, with the elder gopis and the younger gopis. He was just looking at them and just exchanging love. He was happy, so happy.
Indra surrendered to Krishna that you are powerful and you are the strength.
Yeah.
I like that moment when Krishna in eating some soil from Mother Yashoda, and saw the universe is there. I was just amazed at what she was saying.
Yeah.
It's nice, something to think about.
Very nice. And it's so nice how Yogamaya covered her again. When she started to worry, Yogamaya immediately came and covered her so that she didn't have to worry. Do you want to add something? No. Krishna's right there in front of you. You must have a favorite story about him.
My better feeling, Krishna consciousness, that the devotee give me the chance to be better and the relationship with devotee. Just change myself in the beginning, so it's my best feeling in Krishna consciousness now because I'm new devotee. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so Prabhupada gave us a daily program that would help us remember Krishna. And part of his program he gave us was that everyone would be reading Krishna book in the evening, one chapter before they went to sleep. So when you go to sleep, then there's a good chance that you'll dream something about Krishna and his happy pastimes. And that helps us to become attracted to him. Because, because our purpose is to think of Krishna always. We go on a little bit further in this 9th chapter to where Krishna starts to talk about himself. Patram pushpam palam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhaktyupahritam asnami prayatatmanaha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. So Krishna is not asking much of us. But in some ways he's asking a lot. Yad karosi yad asnasi, yad johosi tadasi yad tapasyasi kontaya, tad karusha mad arpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. And then, of course, the last verse in the chapter, which is repeated almost exactly the same in the 18th chapter. Manmana bhava mad bhakto, madhyaji mam namaskuru, mam evaisyasi yuktvevam, atmanam mat parayanaha. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer your obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. So in order to always think of Krishna, we need that relationship of love. Srila Prabhupada explains it's just like if a housewife has a paramour, then she's always thinking of him because she loves him. And so she can very nicely execute her duties and just always be thinking of her paramour. So in the same way, when we come to know Krishna and establish that relationship of love, then automatically we will always think of him. It's completely opposite of the worship of demigods, which is all about thinking of oneself. One is not thinking of the other at all. Like material relationships, a materially based relationship is we think of someone who can please us, who can fulfill our needs, fulfill our desires, and we'll give, it's an exchange, we'll do something in return. It's like a bargaining. This type of relationship Krishna discusses in the 10th canto. When the gopis start to chastise Krishna, when he disappears from them, he comes back and they start to chastise him. They say, well, what sort of person are you? You're not very good. You're terrible. He said, some of these people, they're just after exchange. Give something and return something. And Krishna, in his summary, he says, actually, those people are the worst of all. Because it's completely mercantile in exchange. There's nothing about love. If you love me, if you love me, you'll do this for me. It's a constant problem. It's nicely summarized by Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. He talks about the difference between love and lust. And he explains how in a relationship, people often get into a relationship because they feel like they're missing something in themselves. But that the fact is that will never be complete by taking a partner to try and complete something that's missing in ourselves. It will simply put us more off and more disturbed. To make a proper relationship, you need two people who are whole and complete and who are at ease with themselves. And then they can support the other. Whereas if we're feeling a lacking and we look for someone else to fill it, it puts us in eternal anxiety. Because what if they won't fill it? What if they don't understand what it is that we think we need from this relationship? It simply doesn't work. For a relationship to be full and complete, both parties have to be comfortable and happy and look to serve. Love begins with service. So there's is something I'm learning about, because the concept of a relationship that comes as a matter of duty is not known in the Western world. We grow up with these ideas, is that you fall in love. Bhakti Maharaj also questions, what is this falling in love? It's actually just this idea we have of what we want. We fall in love with that idea. And we try and find someone who fits that idea. But we're not looking at them really, we're just trying to match them to our idea of what we like. So inevitably, when we come to know them, we'll find that they're not like our idea, and we'll be disappointed. So this idea of love being built because of duty and service, like it is in the Vedic culture, where the marriage is arranged, or it's even if it's on a mutual basis, there's not a huge relationship before you decide to get married. In the Western world, there's this idea of let's try it out, and if it works, we'll get married. But this is bound for failure, because the whole premise is, well, if it doesn't work, we don't have to do anything, so there's no commitment. If it doesn't work out, we'll just go somewhere else. So the whole idea is faulty. It was a nice paper I read by someone else. I can't remember his name at the moment. He was also talking about this idea of duty in a relationship. How in the Vedic culture, boys and girls were arranged to be married at a very young age. But what that meant is that they were fixed in life, and they didn't start looking around trying to find pleasure outside somewhere. So they were fixed and happy. They knew what their duty was for the rest of their life. And so therefore they could adjust themselves and get ready for their duty and serve their partner. So the husband serves the wife by offering protection and by offering maintenance, by offering support. The wife serves the husband by looking after him and looking after his needs. And then when the family comes, then they both serve the children as well. But this service is what actually builds love. So this system is completely new to us from the Western point of view. But the same is true when we start our relationship with Krishna. When we begin in devotional service, we start to learn the philosophy. But we can actually only enter into it when we start to apply it and actually serve. So that's why when we come into devotional service, the other devotees will engage us in service. We will chant, but they will also engage us in some practical service. So we do some service. Then Krishna appreciates and reciprocates far more than we're giving to him. He sees a little bit of interest and he reciprocates in order to fan it. And the spiritual master also, he tries to fan that interest very much. So by this service and by learning about Krishna and by serving him, this love will develop. And then when this love develops, we will be able to think of Krishna. And we will learn about his pastimes. Because we love him, we're interested in him. We'll want to hear about him all the time. We'll want to keep learning about him and reading about him. So Prabhupada always made the point that it's not just about his pastimes in the 10th canto. How Lord Chaitanya's favorite pastimes were that of Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj. How any pastimes of Krishna and his devotees are so relishable. Because it's about an exchange of love that provides a happiness. And we're just going through the story of Lord Narasimhadev and Prahlad Maharaj in the morning Bhagavatam class. Now one thing that struck me, after Lord Narasimhadev kills Hiranyakashipu, the demigods start praying to him. And what struck me when that was happening was that how the demigods all seem to be offering prayers that were just based on their own little world of what they want. They didn't... I'll try and get some of them if I can manage to find them. Demigods. So I think Lord Brahma is the first. Yeah, so all the demigods approach. Lord Brahma begins the prayer. He says, "My Lord, you are unlimited and you possess unending potencies. No one can estimate or calculate your prowess or wonderful influence." But then he comes back to his own job in this material world. Through the material qualities, you easily create the universe, maintain it, and then annihilate it. Yet you remain the same, without deterioration. Therefore I offer my obeisances. And then Rudra says, Lord Shiva says, "The end of the millennium is the time for your anger. Now that this insignificant demon Hiranyakashipu has been killed, O my Lord, who are affectionate to your devotee, kindly protect his son Prahlad Maharaj." So again, Lord Shiva is interested in the destruction of the world, so he's thinking of Lord Narasimhadev in his role as destruction, in his anger. Indra Uvacha. "O Supreme Lord, you are our deliverer, our protector. Our shares of sacrifice, which are actually yours, have been recovered from the demon by you." So he's thinking about his shares of the sacrifice because he's missed out on the sacrifices. So these demigods, yes, they are devotees, but they are not pure devotees. And even they're showing that they have their own interest. And even when they think of Lord Narasimhadev, they're thinking of their own interests. So in this way, it's not pure unalloyed devotional service. Anya bilasta shunyam, yana karana enavritam. So the striking contrast is there, that if we come to know about Krishna, we want to know all about Krishna. We don't just want to know a little bit of how he's going to serve us. We want to know all about Krishna and learn more about him. And then we'll be happy because we will realize how wonderful it is. There's a chapter in the Krishna book also. And also in the Govardhan Leela, just after they come out from the Govardhan hill, all the residents of Vrindavan start talking about Krishna and how wonderful he is. And the chapter's called Wonderful Krishna. And everyone starts talking to each other. Well, do you remember how he killed the cart demon? Do you remember this and do you remember that? I wonder if he's a demigod. I wonder if he's a Supreme Lord. Perhaps he's Lord Vishnu. And they're just talking about how wonderful it is. But their conclusion is, it doesn't matter. He's wonderful and we love him. So they don't really care whether he's the Supreme Lord or not. They just care that he's wonderful and they love him. Okay, so we're up to 6 o'clock. Now, you want to ask a question? Take the mic.
Mataji, talking about pastimes, I don't know.
Yeah, is it on?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, talk about it.
Mataji, talking about pastime, I don't know so much. So, is reading or gathering knowledge about the pastimes of Krishna, is that limited only to the Krishna books, or is it the whole, because pastimes of Krishna?
So pastimes of Krishna, I mean, generally we go for the Bhagavatam because the Bhagavatam is teaching us pure devotional service. Now you'll find in the classes many devotees will add information that from the same stories that come in the other Puranas. But generally we don't study the other Puranas, except they might add to our storytelling, because they are told with a different purpose in mind. So our goal is devotional service. So yeah, the Krishna book, that is part of Srimad-Bhagavatam. And the Srimad-Bhagavatam tells about more of Krishna's devotees and Krishna's Leela, his other pastimes. But even it will go through the different incarnations in the first canto, the third canto, and the 9th canto go through some of the different incarnations as well.
By the way, where I don't know internet. I miss internet by accident on my taking care of my paralyzed mother and paralyzed sister. So that time internet was coming, I miss it, and in between I got terrible accident. So I cannot internet. Please, can you tell me where can you find one version of the altar in English? Can I find it on internet? I cannot internet. I don't know.
You want the main incarnations of Krishna?
Yes, 21 or 22.
So in the first canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, 22 are described. In some places they count 10, like the poster with the pictures on it has got 10 incarnations. But we're talking, I mean, Krishna's incarnations are unlimited. He comes in every species, and he comes he comes all the time. There are different classes of incarnations also. There are Manvantaras, which come for every age of Manu they come. There are Purusha avatars, which are the 3 Mahavishnu, Garbhodayavakshi Vishnu and Kshirodakshay Vishnu. There are Leela avatars, which include, I think the 22 are possibly in the Leela avatars. And some are in more than one.
But the one, for example, the first avatar was based on the 4 Kumaras.
Yes, so if you want the list of 22, that's in the...
I would like to have a list. Where can I get it?
It's in the
avatars, the main avatar.
First canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam. So
you can find it all in
first, this is described the main avatars coming up to Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram, and then the verse Ete Chamsa Kala Pumsham, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So you come here in the library hours and you take out the first canto, and it's the 3rd chapter in the first canto.
But you not happen to know that if there is just like key verses of Bhagavad-Gita, for example, somebody has somehow collected and made it something like the altars.
Yeah, so
Krishna.
is
there something existing?
Take the first canto, 3rd chapter, and it lists them one by one, and so each verse, and then Prabhupada gives a short description in the purport. I can see it here. It's in the library. You come here in library hours. You can read through it and find. Canto 1, chapter 3.
Chapter 3.
Yeah, the main incarnate. The 20.
Something.
Yeah, the 22 are described like in about 1 or 2 verses each,
yes.
and you can.
One was Kalki. He will come after Kalki or something where 2 Jews come together. Then Kalki.
Yeah, so I can see the Srimad-Bhagavatam first canto here. You just come into library hours and you can look at it. Anything else? Any other comments or questions, corrections?
But Mataji, if I know the Krishna books, do I know enough of the pastimes of Krishna? Is that sufficient?
We can't know everything.
Suppose you do an exam like Bhakti Shastra course or Bhakti-Yoga course, and you have to name the pastimes.
No, Bhakti Shastri is looking at 4 books. You look at the Bhagavad-Gita, we're looking at now. You look at the Nectar of Devotion. So Nectar of Devotion is the science of devotional service. And then you look at Nectar of Instruction, which is a nice small book.
Yeah, I know.
A very nice small book. And then Ishopanishad, which is another nice small book that tells them essence of the Upanishad. Yeah, so... And those 4 books you study. So it's about understanding the philosophy. It's not about listing avatars. Or listing stories. But we want to, because in order to come to love Krishna, we have to know about him. So we have to know about our relationship with him. So what you learn in the Bhakti Shastri is you learn this process of how to develop our relationship with Krishna. It's so important. And then
Bhakti-Yoga course for 3 months. I had only holidays 3, but it was taking 6 months, 7 months. At that time, I was not allowed to stay here.
That's okay.
But the pastimes of Krishna is enough in Krishna from the Krishna books, Mother, too?
Well, if you're doing Bhakti Vaibhav, you'll be studying Srimad-Bhagavatam, which begins from the first canto. So for stories of Krishna, Krishna book is wonderful to help you remember Krishna at night. But when you're studying, Prabhupada recommended that we first study Bhagavad-Gita, and then Srimad-Bhagavatam, starting from the beginning and carrying right through. And then after that, Chaitanya Charitamrita also. But I mean, he wrote 60-odd books.
But Chaitanya Bhagwatam is a very extended book, something. I never read it. I hear so much about it.
It's nice, but it's good to first study Srimad-Bhagavatam, because then when you get to Chaitanya Charitamrita...
I read it all. I'm now starting with 10.
Yeah, good. So then when you come to Chaitanya Charitamrita, you'll understand and you'll be able to appreciate Chaitanya Charitamrita. I mean, some people just want to go straight to the Leela of Lord Chaitanya. But actually the Adi Leela, which explains the philosophy, I thought was really nice, because I'd read Bhagavatam first, and it so nicely explains the philosophy of Krishna's position in just a few poetic verses. He nicely explains everything. So if you can study the Bhagavatam first and then go to Chaitanya Charitamrita, then do so. But we've got a lifetime.
But then mainly it is Chaitanya. I never read it, but it is about Lord Chaitanya.
Yeah. So but explains a lot. Krishnadas Kaviraj is explaining the tattva also. He's explaining how Lord Chaitanya is Krishna and the different features of Krishna. So it's talking also about Krishna, his different avatars and his different positions. It's not just on Leela. This is why Prabhupada gave us Chaitanya Charitamrita as opposed to Chaitanya Bhagwat. Also, Chaitanya Bhagwat was presented by his spiritual master, so he didn't need to repeat it. But Chaitanya Bhagwat is more of the stories, whereas Chaitanya Charitamrita starts with telling us the philosophy and the tattva, which helps us to correctly understand everything.
But you just said Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagavatam. What is that? I never
Chaitanya Bhagwat.
Oh, that is another book?
That's another book. It wasn't presented by Srila Prabhupada. It was presented by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. It tells more of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela in childhood and youth. And when Krishnadas Kaviraj is talking in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he says, I'll just tell you the little bit of this story because it's covered in full in Chaitanya Bhagwat. And then another book is there, Chaitanya Mangal, which is a book kind of in verse form, in brief form about Lord Chaitanya. So many people wrote about Lord Chaitanya. But Prabhupada told us there's no need for us to go past his books. If we want to, if we've read his books and understand them thoroughly, we can go on to some more books. But there's no need to.
So, but is Chaitanya Amritam necessary to read?
What's necessary is we develop our relationship of love with Krishna. So, according to our own nature, it may not be necessary. When Lord Chaitanya went to South India, he found this Brahmana who was trying to read the Bhagavad-Gita, but he was illiterate and couldn't read. So he wasn't reading anything else. But he was crying as he was trying to read. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because everyone was laughing at him because he was illiterate and he was trying to read Bhagavad-Gita. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and said, I see you're reading Bhagavad-Gita. He says, well, actually I'm not reading, I'm illiterate. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, but I can see that you're crying as you're reading. You must be understanding something. And the Brahmana replied, well, I'm illiterate. My spiritual master, when he gave me initiation, he says, you read one chapter of Bhagavad-Gita every day. So I'm trying, but I can't read. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says again, but I can see that you're crying. You must be getting something from your reading. He says, but whenever I pick up the Bhagavad-Gita, I just think of Lord Krishna taking the position of being the chariot driver for Arjuna. And it just seems so wonderful that he has become the servant of his devotee. And so then I am crying. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, well, then you're the perfect reader of the Bhagavad-Gita because you've understood perfectly. So it's not that so much is required. What's required is that we enter...
The quality.
Yeah, the quality. We enter into this process. We take up the process. And yeah, we will understand the result.
Anyway, Bhagavad-Gita and Bhagavatam is very important, and matter of devotion Krishna books. That's a lot. Maybe I never go to Chaitanya.
I haven't read all of Srila Prabhupada's books, but some people say you should read all of Srila Prabhupada's books at least 3 times each. I haven't done it. You can keep reading. We've got a lifetime. There's no need to worry about what's enough. We've got a lifetime. Okay, thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.